right, all you cats and kittens, welcome back to Student of the Gun Radio. It is Thursday, and we promised you we were going to have an interview for you this week, and we've got it. So calm down, hippies. Just take a deep breath. Welcome. If this is your first time joining us, we will be patient with you up to a certain extent. Up to a certain extent. Okay. Speaking of, do you know what listen louder means, Jared? You know what listen louder means. Every once in a while, I tell people that they need to listen louder, and they give me like the RSO dog, like they turn their head, or this whole thing, just turn their life upside down face. But yeah, sometimes you need to listen louder, and we are patient with you. Jared is relatively patient with you. I try to be patient. However, caveat asterisk. If you're not paying attention, if you're not listening to the show, if you don't write us and say, derp a derp, I'm upset, I'm angry. It's like, because chances are that we already covered that. It amazes me, Jared. Like, all right, I'll give you a great example, Jared. The Vagination Awards, the trophy, right? We put a picture of the Vagination trophy up, the award, and people lost their crap. They lost their minds and started writing this letter about misogyny and denigration and gender studies. And so, like, we've been doing that for how long? How long have we had a vagination report?
A long time.
Going almost 2 whole years. I would say 2 years. Do you realize that we've been on the air longer than 2 years?
Dude,
now?
We should have gave that dude yesterday the Vagination Award.
Which one? The
Reverend for Gun Control.
No, he's not getting a Vagination Award. It's going to be something far more severe than that. But anyway, welcome back to Student of the Gun Radio. I am your host, Professor Paul Markle, in case you hadn't figured that out by now. Or you may be new. And on the other side of the glass, on the outside of the glass case of emotion, is Jared. He is my co-host, studio engineer, and producer. Is that all you are? Co-host, studio engineer,
for
producer?
This hour, yeah.
Okay. Web designer, all that good stuff. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our special guest because he's in the car and he says he's driving to Cleveland. And I told him that was too bad, but you got to do what you got to do. It is Paul Leitner-Wise. Now, Paul, welcome. Now,
hey guys, how you doing?
Your last name, is there some Germanic history in there?
Slight. Basically Austrian, a little bit of Irish, and put it together, and that's what you got.
So if you were back on the continent, it would be Weiss. Was that now correct?
Correct.
Yeah, Weiss. I have the Germanic in my history, too, in my background. I have Germanic and Scotch, so I'm Scotch-German. So you can relate. I'm sure you can relate.
To a degree, yeah, to a degree.
To a certain degree.
I can relate to that.
Sometimes I relate to myself.
Of course, the Irish have better memories.
That's funny.
Hey, it's your world. I'm just living in it. So, all right. So you're driving to Cleveland, and you have a little company called Leitner-Wise Manufacturing, and you make all kinds of super cool ninja stuff that goes on black rifles. And
that is correct.
Why's it got to be black?
Well, I don't know why it's got to be black. But you've got bolt carriers and all that. So if, folks, real quick, Leitner-Wise is LEITNER-WISE.com. So you can check those guys out. Now, when we saw each other quite briefly at the NRA show in Nashville, you had something in your hand. You said, check.
Well, I've always got something in my hand.
Yeah, but you said you had something in your hand that you were excited about. And what was that?
You're going to have to refresh my memory. Normally it's alcohol.
No, it was your e-sights.
Yes, the e-sights, yeah. And there, do you want me to talk about them?
Yeah, please talk about the e-sights. They go on black rifles.
Well, they go on any rifle with a Picatinny rail. Mm-hmm. That's the interface that we utilize, and really, it started off as a sort of idea that I'd had for a while on doing something with backup sights, and then it sort of developed from there. The idea was that really with modern optics, backup sights are redundant now. I mean, that's really the easiest way to say it. modern optics being so reliable, you really don't need to worry about iron sights. But there is a school of thought that it's probably better to have them than not, particularly on anything you're using as, for example, a fighting gun, a defensive weapon. If your primary optic goes down, you are probably going to want something that's going to get you out of trouble. So you look at what's being offered out there, and really, the optics, the backup iron sight optics you're looking at, the technology for them was developed in the late 1800s. And they were designed as a primary sight at the time. It was a sight that you utilized anywhere from 100 to 1,200 meters. And minute adjustments, lots of arguments about whose sight is a finer adjusting sight than the others. All of that really redundant technology on a modern backup sight. So I kind of figure that if we simplified it down and really looked at what's done with service pistols, they have fixed sights. If we adopted that attitude, we made a very low-profile pop-up sight that has no adjustment. It's just mechanically centered to the center line of the rifle when you bolt it onto the rail system. Then really what you've got is a very simple emergency sight if you need it. And by not having the multiple levels of adjustment and all of those concerns, that would reduce the price. The second thing is, if you're utilizing something as an emergency backup, you really want that piece of equipment to be in exactly the same state it was in when you fitted it. In other words, anything that can be adjusted, will be messed with, and it's very important that you know exactly if you put that rifle down, if you've taken it out anywhere, you've gone and shot with it, there's no possible way that someone trying it out could have adjusted the sight and moved the point of impact. So that was the ethos behind it, and we went ahead and designed them and built them, and we're now shipping them out there. And some people get it and some people don't, but it's a good piece of kit.
Well, and that comes down to if you're using those sights, you're at that point where you have to flip these things up and use them. You're not laying down prone and trying to take a 500-yard shot. I mean, you might.
No, you're not.
You might, but chances are that's not what you're really concerned about. You're concerned about I need to fix things and get out of here, and then I'll get myself a new optic. Now, co-witnessing, not everybody is digging what co-witnessing is, but give us, these are standard same plane co-witness sights, is that correct?
Exactly. They're to M16A2 specification. So although they're dramatically smaller, the first thing people see when they actually see them is how small they are. When you actually flip them up, they sit exactly the same height as any other backup sight does. And as I say, that's M16A2 specification. So if you have a fixed, you have an A-frame front sight on your weapon, you can put the rear sight on, and it will work perfectly with that. And obviously, if you're looking at looking through your optic and picking up your iron sights, it'll do the same thing.
I like folks that try and they tell me, dude, I was trying to co-witness my sights with my ACOG and it wasn't working. Mm-hmm. Like, there's probably a reason for that. But co-witnessing, when you're talking about co-witnessing, you're talking about a one-to-one optic, like an aim point, like a T1 or what have you. And that's something that not everybody gets, is that not every set of backup sights are standard A2 height. Some of them...
That is correct.
And some of them are made only to be used as dedicated pairs. And if you don't buy the corresponding rear with the corresponding front, which were built by that manufacturer for that height, they're not going to work for you. I've known people that have, like, they mix and match, these different manufacturers, flip down, fold up sights, and then they're like, I can't figure out why this thing won't, zero, and it's shooting high, it's shooting low. I'm like, because your rear sight is a half-inch lower than your front sight. That could be part of the problem.
Exactly.
I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying that that might be part of your problem. Now, black rifles. Let's talk about the black rifle industry and the black rifle accessories. In the great gun and ammo crises of 2012, 2013, and so forth, as an industry, we were in a situation where, you had manufacturers sitting around with almost completed rifles. And when I say almost completed, if they, my Kingdom for a bolt carrier group. Right. That situation. So where are we? I mean, the consumer and the consumers, they were all, jacked up. They're like, how come I can't find? Well, I don't know, maybe because you waited till the last minute and panic bought. But other than that, the industry, the black rifle industry, the gun industry, legitimately, where are we at as an industry now as far as availability of everything?
There's massive amounts of everything in the market currently. Not all of it good. It's very interesting. After the bubble burst, when people realized that none of the pending legislation that had been put forward by the administration was going to actually fly in it. Obviously, it did in some places. Some states suffer from restrictive Second Amendment, anti-Second Amendment legislation. But on a national level, I'm talking on a federal level, then all of a sudden the market dried up, and a lot of companies, big companies that rely on turnover because the products they're making are at a market level that is, shall we say, they're fairly low price. So they're producing vast numbers of these. And they suddenly had a glut of inventory. The problem then rolls down into your suppliers, the vendors, because they're basically, in terms of black rifle manufacturers, the amount of actual black rifle vendors, in other words, people who make the parts for black rifles, is relatively small. Mm-hmm. They were suddenly left with a glut of product that nobody wanted to buy. They had excess inventory. So it's taken a little while to get that sort of inventory cleared. A number of companies actually failed during this time. A number of manufacturers failed during this time. I think now what's happened is not only do you have a glut of good product on the market, but you've got a glut of particularly bad product parts on the market, very cheaply priced, so cheaply priced that as a manufacturer, there are certain lines we won't look at making because to make that product correctly costs more than actually some of the parts are being retailed for at the moment. So obviously, we don't want to spend all of our budget on informing people why they should be purchasing something 2 to 3 times the price that a competitor is selling it for. And I'm not into standing up, grandstanding, and saying that company's product's bad, that company's product's bad. That's not for me to do. That's for the market to decide what's good and bad. So at the moment, anything you want is out there. Now, what we've done is instead of making the same stuff as everybody else, we're enhancing product, in our opinion, better, and certainly in the opinion of our customers, better. And the net result is we're able to sail through this glut because we're offering, niche products, innovation, and it seems to be going very, very well. I think the only things really in the black rifle market, the only things that are really selling are either absolute steals or innovation. Now, this is going to start to change as we get closer and closer to the election in 2016, particularly with some of the candidates the Democrats are running, particularly with what they're saying at the moment. So it will be an interesting 2 years from a manufacturer's standpoint and a vendor's standpoint.
I like the fact that you put a direction arrow on your cam pin.
Well, yeah. I mean, that took people a little while to realize why we're doing that, because they turn around and say, well, duh, it can go in either way. You know, why do you need a direction arrow? And this comes back to enhancing a product and making that product as consistent as possible. And in terms of the arrow on the cam pin, that's really just there to make sure you put that cam pin back in the same place each time.
Yeah.
Now, why is that important? Well, there are wear patterns. There's a lapping process that goes on as that cam rotates the bolt backwards and forwards along the cam path. And by removing that cam pin and putting it back in 180 degrees different to it was before, you're suddenly setting up a different set of wear patterns on it. So why is that important unless you're totally anal retentive? Why it's important is because we're talking about consistency. Now, this comes down to how not my philosophy, but one of the things that I think is really important, and it's something that's fairly misunderstood. Historically speaking, bolt guns are considered more accurate than semi-automatic guns, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The old guys will tell you that.
Yeah. Now, do you know why that is?
Less moving parts.
Not exactly. I mean,
Greater
that's part of it. The
consistency.
main reason is because of a thing called headspace. And you know what headspace is?
Mm-hmm.
And in case any of your listeners don't, that's the distance between the head of the case and the bolt face. Mm-hmm. And the more consistent that is, the more consistent each round will be, and consistency leads to accuracy. So with a bolt gun, every time you chamber that round, you're chambering it exactly the same way. That bolt is locking up in exactly the same position because you're chambering it manually each time. With a semi-automatic gun, the first round you chamber manually. The subsequent rounds chamber automatically, which is why your first round prints in a different place to the second round and all subsequent rounds. So what that means is your group has opened slightly, which is why a bolt gun has a reputation for being a more accurate rifle than a semi-auto. So it occurs to me that the more consistency we can get in lockup, the greater enhancement we're going to have in the accuracy department. And that's really what that cam pin does. By controlling every aspect of the lockup of the bolt, the cam, into the barrel extension, however small that difference is, it's all about making each round fired as consistent as possible. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, and it does. And I think a lot of people, when you see a high-quality bolt carrier group and so forth, I really appreciate the firing pin retaining pin as somebody who's farted around with ARs for like the last 30 years. When you first encounter something that is very well made, it's almost like seeing for the first time. And you're like, wow,
yes.
How is it that everybody's not doing this? Well, the reason everybody's not doing it is because it actually costs money and it takes effort to do that, and as opposed to just knocking them out. I don't want to lose this. It's funny that you mentioned the patterning, and Wiley Clapp did an article probably 30 years ago where he very meticulously detailed. I'm pretty sure it was Wiley. I could be wrong, but the first round versus all the consecutive rounds from semi-automatic handguns. And,
right.
And he talked about why that is. Why is it my first round prints 2 inches lower than all the rest of the rounds? When I'm shooting my 1911 or whatever. And he said, well, this is why, because you're just the power of you releasing the slide nowhere compares to going bam.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Are you here? Hello?
Okay. Yeah. I'm just getting a little interference. I do apologize.
The NSA needs to recalibrate their stuff.
Our internet was just going.
Yes.
Yeah, recalibrate. All right. So now that the NSA has recalibrated their system, we can continue with our conversation.
Absolutely. You don't know how true that is.
Oh, it's like NSA eats
Or
puppies.
maybe you do.
NSA eats puppies. What? That's what I heard. Someone said that. That's what I heard. What
was the word I'm not allowed to say?
It might not be NSA. Wide receiver, Fast and Furious.
Yeah, right.
What was that? What's the one that Snowden said? All those different programs that, like Flytrap and all that crazy stuff. But anyway,
something about.
You want to have some fun, Paul?
Yeah, sure, always.
All right. Well, there's 3 people that apparently I'm supposed to hate. And I've already talked to 2 of them, and you're the third. I don't get the memos. I don't get the internet blogger forum balls memos. But apparently, I'm supposed to hate you, but I don't know why that is. And I already had this.
Well, you never remember me, so that might be part of it.
that could be part of it. It could be part of it. Now I've already talked to Yeager and I've already talked to Willis, and they already gave me the reason. But you're the third amigo in that group of people that I'm supposed to hate, but I don't know why.
Right.
So, fill me in. Why am I supposed to hate you?
I don't know, to be quite honest.
Are you a harmless, lovable fuzzball?
I'm sorry?
Are you a harmless, lovable fuzzball?
Not at all. Not even slightly. I guess a lot of it stems back to when I left LWRC, and they engaged in some very underhanded activities and utilized a internet forum called AR15.com, which is populated by very strange individuals who really don't have a life.
We're getting letters now.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier to believe bad stuff about someone than good stuff. So that's one side of it. What you have to remember is the reasons they did that, and that's basically because they were not in a position to pay off my contract to get me out of the company. So they engaged in, frankly, criminal activities to try and have me deported so they wouldn't have to pay me the money they were legally contracted to do so.
How'd that
and
work for 'em?
Whilst those individuals who engaged in that have left the company, that company, LWRC, has never paid any of the royalties that they are supposed to pay for utilizing my patents. And that's pretty sad. It's not unusual in this industry for these sort of activities to happen. So that's one aspect of it. I think the other aspect is anybody who pushes the boundaries, anybody who develops disruptive technology, and that's the term that is used for the things that I do, is usually regarded with either suspicion, distrust. They're controversial. A lot of people and a lot of companies have a lot of money tied up in, quite frankly, boring, old, useless technology. Mm-hmm. And it's not in their interests to have individuals or companies come along and say, hang on a minute, have you thought about doing it this way? Because this way might actually be better. So I think
we fear change.
You have basically this old internet bullshit, which is just stupid, and you have a combination of that and the ability to develop disruptive technologies, demonstrate them, and dramatically prove that what you do is better than your competition. So that's I think that's the main reason. Now,
remember
James and John are both personal friends of mine. I don't necessarily agree with everything they do, but they are personal friends, and in all my interactions with them, they're absolutely solid. And they both have solid businesses, and I think they're good people.
Well,
what more can I say?
Yep. And remember those the 7 words I said you weren't supposed to say? Yeah, you just said one of them.
Yes. Anyway, I did?
Yeah.
Which one was that?
I'm not going to say, because then Jared will have to edit it twice. But
we just talked about that yesterday, actually. The firearms industry is stubborn, and they're slow to accept new, improved,
because
or innovative
it's
ideas.
It's the we fear change thing.
Yeah.
And the customer is largely to blame, because the customer, they there's that small, tiny percentage that will always embrace anything that's new just because it's new. But the vast majority of people are afraid to try or do. And we talked about that yesterday with the kettlebells, and how, kettlebells have been around and they've been used in Asia and Europe for a long time. And then they come to the United States, and like traditionalists are like, that's just some kind of Johnny-come-lately thing. And you're like, well, not really. But in the firearms industry, I mean, we regurgitate the same stupid crap. I see people on these blog forums and what have you, and I have a good memory. If it's one thing I have, Jared, is it not a good memory?
Yeah, definitely.
People regurgitate crap that was printed in Guns and Ammo in 1982. Like, like they all fall to hardball and never rely on, never rely on hollow point ammunition in a semi-automatic handgun. It's like, dude, okay, this is not 1968. A Glock will feed empty cases. It's okay to use, hollow point ammunition, but you still hear that crap. It still comes out. Or if you can't get the job done with 2 or 3, then you probably can't get the job done. So stop worrying about capacity. It's like, what? But people say that. And so what you run into, you change something. You change their favorite widget. And they're like,
yes.
You changed my widget, and I don't like that. But your widget works better now. Yeah, but I don't like that. I'm like I said, I'm sure that, I said this previously, like in 1820, there was guys standing by the stream bed, fist fighting over whether or not these newfangled percussion caps were going to replace the flint,
Right.
Why would you need
to a
that?
degree. I think what you saw with firearms development was this massive explosion, if I can use that term, of technology.
Oh, yeah.
In the late 1800s and early 1900s, and that's pretty much where everything that's in common usage today was developed. I mean, if you look at, for example, the 1911, it was developed in 1911 from earlier Browning designs going back to 1903. It's a pistol that's still being used. If you look at the Mauser action, the 98 Mauser action, that action is still being built by manufacturers the world over. Are they better? Absolutely. It's an old action, but there's a lot of money and invested in tooling that people don't want to change. So you just keep churning out the same stuff with a little bit of a cosmetic update. Take Black Rifles, for example. The AR-15. It's a over 60-year-old design.
Oh yeah.
It's still it really boggles my mind. Could you imagine the car industry if we were driving around in 1952 cars now?
Oh no.
I mean, they're cool, but the industry has
really
progressed in a massive way, and that really hasn't happened with the firearms industry.
Well, we embrace nostalgia, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the fact of the matter is, if you drive a modern car and then you go to an antique show or a car show or whatever, it's fun to drive a 1968 Charger. But after you've driven it, you're like, wow, but we've done so much more. and we can do so much more. But when you say tooling, and people are like, I love we're going to replace the AR-15 bandwagon, guys, or we're going to replace the M16, we're going to replace the 5.56. And every couple of years, it seems like for the last dozen or more, somebody comes up with what's going to be the replacement for the 5.56. Whether it's the 6.8 SBC or the 300 Blackout or the whatever, and I look at people and I'm like, dude, it's not going to happen. Oh, yeah. I was like, no, it's not. Until we're shooting lasers, that's not going to change. Do you realize the investment that the U.S. Army has, not just in the guns themselves, but in all the accessories and parts and what have you that goes into that? That's not like Mayberry PD, which has 12 officers changing service weapons. It's not that big of a deal. But when you have the entire United States military with millions of parts, components, accessories, tomorrow they're going to just like, well, we're going to scrap these and we're going to go with SCARs. No, it's not going to happen. And the thing, as far as ammunition's concerned, that's one thing that I think we've advanced farther than ammunition or farther than guns. Like, for instance, 5.56. Your today's 5.56 and your grandpa's 5.56 are not the same.
No, absolutely not.
And we're doing really good things with the modern 5.56 cartridge. There's dudes that are like trying to collect on their virgins right now that were sent there by this modern 5.56 ammo. So it does the job. And
exactly, I think a lot of that is understanding the capabilities of the ammunition and working within the performance envelope. So by upping the bullet weight, you have a much more effective round. And I think that's part and parcel of it. The rounds the ammunition is a lot more reliable. It does the job, and it does the job in a very effective way. You have Lake City, for example. That's not going to retool overnight to some new Wonder cartridge.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is what I admire about Stoner's design was the ergonomics. The ergonomics is superb, and that's principally the unique thing that Stoner brought to the AR series. It was the ergonomics. And when you look at the AR and you look at every weapon developed subsequently, they all utilize the AR ergonomics. And with the SCAR, when the SCAR first came out and compared to the SCAR now, it's slowly transforming into an AR.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I mean, tell me I'm wrong. Every year it looks more and more like an AR.
The AR, you can get, like, how many times do you see either go to them yourself or you see videos of these 3-gun competitions, and there's 13-year-old girls out there running ARs? All right,
Yep.
These little petite 13-year-old girls are out there running ARs. That is a testament to the design. They're not running Garands and they're not running SOCOM M1s. They're running ARs, and they're doing it exceptionally well. People said, and we did a whole segment about, what rifle should you keep at home? And I said, well, it's really a no-brainer. I don't care what your favorite flavor is. If you're keeping it at home so that everybody in the house can use it, not just you, the big burly man, but everyone, then you get an AR because you can use it, your wife can use it, your teenage kids can use it, your 110-pound, 16-year-old daughter can use it.
That was one aspect I never understood on the assault weapons ban, where collapsible stocks were outlawed, because the beauty of the collapsible stock was not so you could conceal the weapon. The beauty of the collapsible stock was that you could adjust it to the body type of the person shooting it.
Yeah, you can fit it to the shooter. Whoa, that's dangerous. Don't you know how dangerous it is to fit the gun to the shooter? It makes it more...
It's not. It's stupid politicians who, are reacting to looks rather than performance.
Well, if it has a plastic thingy that sticks down from underneath it, that makes it more dangerous. That has that, like,
Absolutely.
that plastic thing you can grab. And if we would just make them softer colors, I think all they should all be beige. That's it. We're going to make all rifles beige so that they don't offend.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is that, you know, and this is what gets me. It's when the gun industry tries to go PC and say, no, we can't do that, or we can't say this because we're going to offend people. Well, the people you're going to be offending are people who are already offended by you.
They already hate you.
Any more offended? They don't like you or about you. A gun company could come up with a cure for cancer, and the liberals would hate them.
Absolutely. That's what I've been saying. It's like, look, morons, stop calling it we need to stop calling it an AR. We need to stop calling it this. We need to call it a modern sporting rifle. Because what? Because the Brady campaigns are going to wake up tomorrow morning and say, you know what? Those gun people, they sure are reasonable. We like them now.
Right.
You know, they made their guns beige instead of, and I was talking. You know Dave Biggers.
Yes, Dave. Dave is a great guy.
Dave is a great guy.
I've known Dave 15 plus years.
We were talking about that very thing, about how we try and couch our language and to placate our enemies. It's like, well, if I only will change my tone, my enemies will stop being my enemies. And he's like, it doesn't matter what we call that object. We can call it a modern sporting rifle. We can call it a happy rifle. We did a whole segment about calling it the happy rifle. And Dave's like, he goes, you know what? Let's just go the opposite. And we have these conversations. He said, let's call it like the Death Dealer 9000. That's what we're going to call it from now on. We're going to call this the Death Dealer 9000. They're like, oh, you can't do that.
Right.
Why? The people who hate us already hate us. Are they going to hate us like 10 times more?
Exactly.
It's like, oh, well, we liked you yesterday when you were calling it a modern sporting rifle, but now that you're calling it the Death Dealer 9000, well, it's like, dude. What?
Yeah, I mean, that is so true. We have we have a couple of products. We have a billet aluminum dust cover, and when that dust cover flips open, it states our business is death and business is good. That's the engraving on the inside. We put that on a T-shirt. It's been the best-selling T-shirt we've ever had. We keep reprinting them because people like to wear something like that. And why the hell should we cower and hide? And it's let's get in their face.
That's why we're in the position we are as a nation right now, because we've tried to be reasonable. And if we're only if we could only be a little bit nicer to our enemies, they'd stop hating us. And if you're afraid,
very rarely.
If you're afraid to offend your enemy, you have already lost.
Exactly. And let's not forget, I mean, June 6th was the anniversary of D-Day. We didn't worry as a nation then about offending the enemy. The job was to win the war. And on D-Day alone, over 4,100 people died in the Normandy landings, in one day.
In one day.
Yep. Yeah. And I don't think the nation could do something like that.
No, we don't have the stomach for it.
It's not about throwing away life or anything like that, because all life is precious. It's the mindset. But everything has changed dramatically.
No, we don't have the guts, the fortitude to do what's necessary. We have, the battle for Iwo Jima. More people died in the battle for Iwo Jima than did during the entire first 10 years of the global war on terrorism. In one single battle, we lost more people than the entire global war on terrorism for the first 10 years. And can you imagine that today? No, if World War II were to kick off in 2015, it would be over, and the East Coast would be speaking German, and California would be speaking Japanese, because we don't have the fortitude to win. We have the fortitude to play, but not the fortitude to win.
I agree with you on this. I think what people don't understand is what's happening in the Middle East now. It's a major problem. And it's a problem that has been the making of politicians who have refused to listen to the people on the ground there, and have just created a mess. And that mess is going to take more and more lives and will become a threat to this country.
Well, you don't. We do this all the time. It's maddening to me. Have you read the Sun Tzu, the Art of War? Yeah,
The Art of War. Yes.
Yeah. Well, when I first read that, and there's like I don't know how many different versions of that out there, but I was reading one of the Lionel Giles version, and I was reading that and comparing it to today. And you read the admonishment. It's like, this is what you should do. This is what you should not do. These are the traps that you fall into. And that book was, depending on who you talk to, written 500 years ago, written 1,000 years ago. It doesn't matter. But you look at that and you're like, okay, we today in modern America, our leaders are making these errors. They're committing these errors today. How is it that a Chinese man wrote this book 1,000 years ago, put it down and said, hey, caution, watch out for these traps, and we are still making those errors? I mean, look at our audience. If they're under age 40, they have no idea about the Khmer Rouge. They have no idea about the killing fields in Cambodia. And they have no idea
Absolutely.
that happened because we created a power vacuum. We went over there and we basically cleared the playing fields, and then we left. We're like, okay, well, you guys play nice now. We're going to go. And bam, what happens? 2 million people slaughtered. And the exact same thing happened is happening with ISIS right now. We gave the enemy a timetable. We said, you guys just need to calm down. We're going to be out of here in a year or so just chill. And so we leave, we create a power vacuum, and then we're shocked and amazed that this is happening. How are we shocked and amazed that it's happening? We created it. We set it up. We basically created the situation to allow it to happen. And then this is really terrible. Yeah, no kidding, it's terrible because we didn't finish the war. World War II, we're talking about, people think that, in modern America that, well, we signed the armistice and the treaties in 1945 and we all just went home. No. We still have troops in Germany today. Now, they're not there making sure that the Nazis, don't misbehave, but it wasn't like, well, all right, well, the war's over, we're all just going to leave.
Exactly.
No.
I mean, there was also in Germany and Japan. In Germany, there was a denazification process.
Yeah.
The same thing happened in Japan, and that was to remove the stain of that regime, the cult of the emperor in Japan. The emperor was no longer divine. That was something the emperor had to do at the end of World War II. And it was necessary for both societies to move forward. Well, it's something. Human nature doesn't change. We're pretty much the same as we were 2,500 years ago. And until we come to terms with that, we're not going to change anything. And this is why anti-gun, anti-firearms law, anti-Second Amendment laws are so morally incorrect, because we're taking away someone's right to defend themselves. We're taking away a fundamental right for them to defend themselves, to defend their families, defend their friends. And also, we're taking away a fundamental right that is enshrined in the Constitution to protect themselves from government overreach.
Well, it's a lie.
Whose vested interest is it to remove those rights?
Brother, you and I both know, and we're trying to educate people, but not just, and we all like, Second Amendment, but why is it important? It's not enough to say, I have a Second Amendment right. Okay, we got that part. Let's move on and be educated. This is why it's important, historically important. And the easiest way to shut down an anti-gun person is to just engage them in conversation. You say, oh, you believe in gun control? Absolutely. There's no reason anyone needs to have a blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. I'm with you. So what if I could tell you that tomorrow morning we could eliminate 10,000 AR-15 rifles from the streets of America, because, that's where all the guns are. They're on the streets. And they're like, that would be wonderful. Say, all right, tomorrow morning, every federal government agency needs to go to their lockers, remove every AR-15 rifle, load them up on trucks, and melt them down to slag. Whoa! Well, no, I don't want them to do it. Well, why not? You said you're for gun control. You said AR-15s are evil death machines and they have no business in a polite society. Why do you think, well, no, I don't mean for the government. I mean for you. Oh, right. So you're not so much anti-gun as you're pro-civilian disarmament. But yeah, shut up, moron. You're a liar. You're a fraud. And I'm not going to talk to you anymore, and I'm not going to be nice to you. And that is another thing that I get crap for all the time, and I'm not going to apologize for it. It's like, well, I believe in your message, but it's your tone that I just can't approve of. So you want me to be nice to the people that are organizing themselves to disarm you and your family and turn you into a helpless tax slave. You want me to be nice to those people. Because that's just what you should do. That's just civil. We've been civil. We've been reasonable for decades. And what has it gotten us, Paul?
Absolutely nowhere.
It's gotten us backwards, yeah.
Very true. Very, very true. Absolutely. So within the context of this conversation, shameless plug, we have a new operating system that we've released on our new Mark 6 upper receiver, which is it's really cool. It's really light, really slim, and very accurate, of course, very extremely reliable. Certainly an evolution on what I did when I was with LWRC. We have that out now. We're working on the lower receiver. We also have a handgun design that we debuted and will be going into production in the very near future, and that's going to be quite an interesting weapon. And then we have a new 308 AR type platform, which will be equally controversial and quite exciting because it's actually dimensionally, apart from the magazine well, it's the same size as the 5.56. Uh-huh. So instead of following the rest of the industry, who basically produced an AR-10 from the early 1950s when metallurgy wasn't understood as well, we took a look at it and built the gun around the cartridge and found that we could actually have the gun the same size as the 5.56, which was pretty cool. So those are some of the things that we've got going on at the moment.
Where can I find a picture of this handgun? Where can I find a picture of this handgun?
On my Instagram feed. So if you follow me on Instagram, and it's Paul Leitner-Wise, all one word, you'll find it there. You can follow me on Twitter as well. Once again, at Paul Leitner-Wise, and I have well north of 200,000 followers on Twitter. And any of that stuff will show you the developments we've got going on. As a company, we don't really have meetings. Meetings are a waste of time. One can go and get coffee, or if it's later in the day, you could be having a whiskey or something. Why waste time on a meeting? So most of our company notifications and updates are done, believe it or not, through social media. So anybody working for the company is advised to make sure they're following our social media pages so they know what's going on that week. It's a much more efficient system in our opinion, because the best way to ruin a great idea is to bring it up in a meeting, you know. So we avoid them.
Oh, brother, you know what? I'm glad I don't have to go to meetings. I was, entrenched in the military bureaucracy for a while, And it got to the point where I was like, are we just having meetings so that we can put something on the calendar? Is that why we're here? So, well, you got to have a meeting. Well, why? Well, because we got to put something on the day-to-day calendar, and so that's going to be like, come on. Which is, sometimes I've been accused of not working and playing well with others, and that would be in meetings.
Right, and I've heard that about you, so I have no reason not to disagree with that statement.
All right, well, we're going on an hour here, and we're going to get this wrapped up. But thank you very much for joining us, for taking some time to talk black rifles and parts and politics and accessories and all that stuff. And I don't care what anybody says. I think you're an okay guy.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
I think I'm probably an okay guy as well. And as long as I wear a name tag, you remember me, so you're probably all right as well.
I'm just never, ever going to get over that. All right.
It
was after hours at a drinking establishment, so shut up.
It was dark.
It was dark.
Yeah. And yes, and it was dark.
And I was wearing sunglasses.
And it was loud, so,
it was dark. It was Tennessee, and there were copious amounts of whiskey flowing. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean.
I'm
one of those things.
I'm on lightnerwise.com right now, and I see you guys, other than uppers, rails, and bolt carriers and stuff, you guys also have some apparel and some patches and stuff. I like the adult, what was it, adult toys available here. That's pretty cool. But the muzzle shots thing, tell me how you guys came up with that. It's pretty cool.
How we came up with what?
The muzzle shot.
The muzzle shot, yes, the shot glass and the half pint MIDI. Interesting, really interesting story, and it's not going to take too long. I was designing the new compensator we have, the C3 compensator, and I needed that to be the same envelope size as the A2 flash hider for a number of reasons. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting there and I'm measuring and looking at an A2 flash hider, and it occurred to me, I thought, this is pretty cool. If I scaled this up, it would make a really neat shot glass. So drew it up, and we modeled it up, and then, we can do that. We got the material in. We ran 500 of them, because if you're manufacturing anything on a CNC machine, you're going to run 500. It's not worth tearing the machine down and tooling it up to make something, and 500, and I put them on my Facebook page, and it was kind of like, hey, guys, look what I just come up with. And at the time, we called it the Battle Shot. We changed it to muzzle shot afterwards. But look what I've come up with. I'm calling it the Battle Shot. It's a shot glass, 1.5 ounce shot glass, and it looks like an A2 flash hider. And they sold out in 22 minutes. 500 of them went in 22 minutes.
Holy cow. You're like, I got to make another.
I think I'm onto something here, So we patented it, and we've been running them, and they're very, very successful. We do engraving services. A lot of people were coming to us and saying, can you do coffee mugs? Can you do, and aluminum isn't good for a coffee mug for obvious reasons. It's a heat sink. So the aluminum is going to get really, really hot and burn your mouth, and the coffee is going to get really, really cold. So it's not, it wasn't suitable for that, but we did develop a half pint glass, and we called it the MIDI, because in certain parts of the world, a half-pint glass is called a MIDI. Yeah. And equally, it refers to the mid-length gas system on the AR, so there was a nice play there. And it doubles as a rocks glass, or so you can drink beer out of it. You can put a cocktail in it. Keeps the drink nice and cold. Lots of fun indeed. We custom engrave those. So we get a lot of military units or law enforcement units wanting their logos on them, and we do that. Some people want personal messages on them, so we do that. We also do them in sort of tactical cases, SKB cases, so you can get 4 shot glasses in a case with a muzzle shot medallion. We also do we just started to do them with the MIDIs too, in a little tactical case, so you can be really cool, take them with you to places. And they're just a great conversation piece. And it actually was our first crossover product. So it was our first product that crossed over from firearms into kind of mainstream. It crossed over into the beverage and barware sector. And so we've kind of got firearms and we got alcohol. So the next thing we got to do is tobacco.
Yeah.
But actually, probably the next thing we're going to do is actually coffee. We're going to do a muzzle shot coffee. We are going to do a muzzle shot coffee mug, but it's going to be ceramic as opposed to aluminum.
No aluminum.
So watch out for those. And of course, there's some other kind of cool barware and stuff that we'll be producing on the muzzle shot under the muzzle shot brand. And we're having a lot of fun with it. So
the next muzzle shot that you're going to come out with is an official Student of the Gun muzzle shot, isn't it?
Yep. We're going to do one of those. So
He's like that.
Paul can find his drinks, stop drinking everybody else's. And I think, seriously, yeah, absolutely. It's and with Father's Day coming up, of course,
See, we just did that for you guys. All right,
for,
you guys. Oh, there's an originalmuzzleshot.com.
Yeah, they've got recipes on there and everything. I'm guessing that the spiced whiskey ginger is your thing.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You can buy them on our website, which is lightandwise.com. We also have originalmuzzleshot.com. And the reason for the two websites was ours is obviously regulated by ITAR, so international sales, or you can't have international sales, but muzzleshot.com, you can, originalmuzzleshot.com.
Yep.
We'll get that right, originalmuzzleshot.com.
Yeah, you'll get in trouble if you say the name wrong on the radio.
I'll get in trouble.
Someone will
if I
probably
say
kick you.
The wrong thing there.
Someone with a V.
So yeah, that's. I'm sorry. Yes. And talking of Vanessa, she has some interesting product lines coming out. She's starting to get into the firearms design. She's the owner of Light and Wise Manufacturing. She's also its creative director. So the look of the company is very much her responsibility, and now she's actually expanding her design skills into firearms design. So that's and this is going to be firearms design that is targeted towards women. So we're not going to produce a pink gun. I would never do anything. Vanessa would never do anything as demeaning as that. What we are going to do is tailor a series of firearms and accessories to account for female body shapes, female senses of aesthetics, and that's something to look out for later this year as well.
And you would have said all that even if she wasn't sitting next to you, right?
She's not sitting next to me.
Oh, okay.
I have my script. No, absolutely, seriously.
He knows what to say.
It's something that's very important because women are a growing demographic in firearms ownership.
Yep.
And to date, really, their manufacturers are not. If a manufacturer wants to put up a firearm for a woman, they paint it pink. That's really doing them a disservice. They're a growing demographic. Let's address that demographic. Let's treat them equally, and let's give them something that they want.
Does pink make it less dangerous? Or more dangerous?
I don't know.
The martial arts industry is the same way.
I just think it's an excuse manufacturers do to have, it's a cheap, expedient way of addressing a demographic. It's just, we don't do it for guys, we don't do that.
Oktoberfest or something.
Why should we do it for women? So we're fortunate to have a female designer at the company who can utilize, the engineering skills we have and combine that with the aesthetics and the product knowledge, and come out with a range that's going to turn some heads. Let's put it that way. It's going to be known as a 6-carat, and carat as in diamond weight,
diamond carat.
Because we're not appealing to the hunters or anything. So yeah, that's kind of what that's kind of another area we're going into.
Yeah, I was talking about when we were announcing that we were going to have an interview with you. I was trying to figure out how you could fit fashion and firearms together, and somehow you do that.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Congratulations. You made the
Well,
crossover.
the thing is, our firearms purchasers are not all tactical guys. You know, they're across the board. So why pigeonhole yourself in one particular? So everybody looks at you and says, "Hey, these guys are just another tactical company pumping out the same old stuff as everybody else." We're not.
Yep.
What you see is what you get. Well, we are, we are the face of the company. We're not going to change who we are to fit a certain corporate ideal. That's not what we're about. So hopefully by staying true to who we are, willing to work with a greater demographic of people who are not going to be turned off because the moment they see guys in 511s and black polo shirts, they're gonna say that's not me.
Yep.
Well, to a certain
everybody.
extent,
Yeah.
you should not be so. People should not be so afraid. But that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
Topic.
I mean,
Absolutely.
have fun while
Absolutely.
you're working, and then that's what you do.
Well, there's time for work and there's time for play, and we need to. It's like that whole yin and yang, and we need to have balance in our lives. That's that. Daniel-san is a lesson for
that
today.
was very philosophical. There.
Yes.
You
That
must
was
have
deep.
balance.
Yes, I'm impressed.
Balance not just for fighting, balance for whole life.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
And so put that in
Okay,
your
Mr.
pocket
Miyagi.
and take it with you. All right, Paul. Well, you have a safe travel all the way up to Cleveland, and tell the people in Ohio that we said hello. And we really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to be with us and to chat with us here on Student of the Gun Radio.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasant hour and a bit. It's taken my mind off of the drive, and it's good. And once again, thank you very much. Something for Jared here.
You're bad. All right, brother.
I put that right at the end, so it's easy for you to edit.
That was pretty good.
All right, folks, I hope you appreciated that interview with Paul Leitner-Wise of Leitner-Wise Manufacturing, LeitnerWise.com. Check them out. They're everywhere. They're on every social media. They have a website. They make black rifle parts. They make lots of stuff. And we appreciate Paul taking the time out of his busy schedule, because we really did just schedule this like on 1 day's notice. We also appreciate, who else we appreciate?
Everybody.
We appreciate Velocity
We appreciate
Triggers.
you for listening, obviously.
Velocity Triggers, VelocityTriggers.com. Brownells at Brownells.com. Frog Lube, it just works, FrogLube.com. Crossbreed Holsters. You need to carry a gun? You need a Crossbreed. CrossbreedHolsters.com. Century Arms, the sponsors of the mobile app and Student of the Gun Radio. Check them out at CenturyArms.com. And, of course, SWAT Fuel. SWATFuel.com. When you go to SWATFuel.com, you want to make a purchase? Cool. Use the promo code SOTG2015, and you're going to save 10% off your order. So do it.
Yeah, go to studentofthegunradio.com, click on SOTG 189, and all the links are going to be in there for you.
There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, remember, you're a beginner once, but you should be a student for life.